Hey everyone, welcome back to part 4 of personal finances. Today we're going to be talking about tracking expenses. So budgeting, which we've talked about, is where you're looking ahead and telling your money where to go, where expense tracking is looking back and seeing where your money actually went. So there's a difference between the two. Most experts recommend that you track expenses for about 3 months, which that will give you a really good picture on your regular necessary and fixed expenses like groceries and things like that, utilities. But I personally don't think that's long enough. I don't think it gives you a big enough picture. For instance, we have a ton of expenses in the summer. So if you're like normal people, you will set a New Year's resolution to do better with your money. So you're starting in January. And if something like that pattern that we have in our family, if you have that, you're not going to be able to see that with only tracking for 3 months. So I personally do it constantly. I have done it probably for about 12 years now, and really it just keeps me accountable. I only track my personal spending because at this point I already know what our family expenses are and I have a really good handle on those averages. So I would advise you, if you're just beginning to start out, to track everything. When you get to the point where you've been tracking for long enough, you can go where I am at. We're just tracking the personal spending, and that's really because, if you're tracking food, for instance, and you're going to go eat a cookie, a lot of times if you're tracking, it will prevent you from eating the cookie because it's going to look bad and it's going to put you over your calories. It's the same kind of thing with your money. With expense tracking, sometimes I don't buy something because I know I'm going to have to go home and write it down. And I don't want to, so it prevents me from making some bad choices. If you're tracking some personal habits in your planner or whatever on your computer, with tracking you can see some correlations and some patterns, whether they're good or bad, that you normally wouldn't see with just trying to remember things in your brain. So that's another advantage of it. A lot of people use software, which you absolutely can. There's a lot of great tracking software out there. For me, I am a very visual, tactile person, so it's more effective for me to just pull out and write things down in my notebook. I have a really, really strong hand-to-brain connection. There's actually a lot of science behind that as well, and I will link one of my favorite TED Talks by Jake Weidman, where he talks about the art of writing and why it's important that we write things down. It just really solidifies things, and you learn and see things faster than you would just trying to remember. So when in my life, when I've stopped tracking my expenses, I just noticed that bad habits just start trickling back in. So I just have kind of decided I'm just going to be tracking for the rest of my life. And I think that's a good thing. It's no big deal. Where I first got this idea was from a really old Oprah show. She was talking or interviewing millionaires. And one of the millionaires on there was this little old lady librarian. She, I think, only made about $23,000 a year for her entire life. She tracked her expenses in just a 10-cent spiral school notebook that you can get. She would write down everything, including if she would buy a pack of gum. And that just blew my mind. I'm like, here is this lady who makes a very low income and she's a millionaire. So that was really inspiring for me. And from that point on, I've always done some kind of tracking. So we've talked about how we do cash envelopes and the budgeting. And so what I wanted to do now is how I do the receipts, and you can see how I track things. So here, as you can see, is my pocket that I've showed you where I keep things. I have 2 more receipts that you haven't seen. And then usually what I'll do when I pull these out is just look at the receipt, see if there's anything I need to keep on there. If you have any banking information like a debit, you probably won't want to shred at this point. I usually just have cash, so I don't need to do that. So I need to, this one, I can recycle. These 3, there's a possibility I might need to return something, so I will keep those in my pocket. And then these 2 are the ones that I previously have written down that you haven't seen. And out of these 2, I don't need to keep these 2 either. So this one is a recycle, and then this one I'm going to keep out to show you, because a lot of people have questions on what do you do if you have more than one category on a receipt, or when you go to the store and what do you do with your cash envelopes. And then also what do you do if your spouse needs to pick something up and you have the money at home? So this is a good example of this one. My husband went to the store. Aldi is one of our grocery stores if you don't have one. He needed some things for himself. So what I do is, of course, I told you, he has his own account. So this came out of his debit. So when he gets home, he hands me the receipt and I tally things up. So he spent $7.94 and my portion is $13.72 because my grocery budget, I'm responsible for the food. So then I will ask him, okay, do you want your $13.72 in cash? Because of course I always have cash, or do you want me to reimburse you out of my checking account? And this particular time he wanted me to put it back in checking. So I did. And then I've never really had a problem with settling things up because I always have some money in my checking account and I always have some, of course, some cash. So for me, if like with my checking account, I will just settle things up with myself when I get paid again, because normally the things in my checking account are for recurring expenses. And so I've never really had a problem. Of course, you're not going to put yourself below zero and get yourself in trouble that way. So, you know, if it happens, you know, he'll just get reimbursed the next time we get paid if I don't have the whole amount, if that makes sense. And as far as cash envelopes, it's what I was talking about. I'm going to go ahead and recycle this because I'm done with that one. That's when I would pull out a 20 from a different category so I could get smaller denominations and be able to settle up my cash envelopes when I got home. So you're normally going to have, I have that problem when I go to either Sam's or Target. I think the most I've ever had was probably 4 different categories. And if you're short a couple dollars in a particular cash envelope, you know, the IRS is not going to come after you because your totals don't tally up exactly like they're supposed to. Essentially, you're auditing yourself. So you're going to be able to correct those and make sure that they line up with these totals right here. You're always going to know what your total is supposed to be. So I will just, if I don't have the exact amount, or if I'm just a couple dollars short, you know, I have a 5 and I need a $2 somewhere. The next time I go somewhere, that's when I know I will need to get some smaller denominations in the bills. Or you can just wait, if it's close, you can just wait till you get paid again. And then when you go to the bank and get your cash out of your account, then you will know that you need those denominations, if that makes sense. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So let's go through the actual tracking. You've seen that the last time I had spent $45 in groceries and now I've spent $77.03. So I've got $122 in my grocery cash envelope. So let's go through my spending so far. Amazon, $38.15. I bought 3 super duper healthy cookbooks. So that is a green. The green, I talked about my rating system, which I use a very simple stoplight system. Green is going to be anything that's a fantastic purchase, it's really healthy or really good spend, something that's absolutely necessary. The reason this got a yellow, which yellow is going to be anything that's okay. It's usually a lot of my wants are going to be on this one. You know, it wasn't a terrible purchase, but it was definitely something that I could live without. That's going to get a yellow. The reason I got a yellow on this one is because I can't really say chocolate covered Katie is necessity. Deliciously Ella and DIY nut milks, nut butters, and more. Those are absolutely healthy and necessary. So that's why this is a part green and a part yellow. And then the red is going to be anything where I've just lost my ever-loving mind. It was a terrible purchase, really unhealthy, absolutely not necessary, and just bad. So that's going to be red. So green, yellow, and red, simple, simple. Panera was $27.46. I paid for a birthday lunch. Anytime you spend time with family and friends, it's going to be great. But the reason this got a yellow is because going out to eat will never get a green. But it wasn't terrible fast food. I got a salad, so that's why it got a yellow. Michael's was $7.69. I bought White Stays on ink. Again, that's something I wanted. I can live without it, but I will definitely use it, so that's why it got a yellow. Hy-Vee, which is one of our grocery stores, $45.26. That was all food. The reason this one got a yellow is because I can't say chocolate milk is a necessity. Debatable, but no. And then I bought probably just too much meat. It wasn't really necessary. So that's why this one is part green, part yellow. Panera, again, I normally don't go out to eat this much, but I was really, really sick. So I needed French onion soup. From Panera, my son was gracious enough to go get that for me, so I bought him something as well. So it was necessary. I was sick, but of course, I probably could have found something around the house to eat. So it wasn't terrible, but that's why it got a yellow. And then Aldi, which is another grocery store, $13.72, and that is all fruit and granola, so that's green. So that's an all green one. So that just gives you an idea of my spending. Let me show you another example. This is back when I was keeping it on my daily pages. Joann's, I needed some scissors. My scissors were awful. I needed new ones. So that is a necessity. That was green. Gas was green. Here I started losing my marbles. Hobby Lobby, I returned something, and I don't know why I didn't walk out of the store, but I felt like I needed to buy something. So it was unnecessary, a bad purchase. I should have just walked out of the store. Even though it was only $1.27, I am going to return it because I'm not going to use it. So that is a solid red. Target, I think what was going on is I was hungry, my blood sugar was dropping, and as you can imagine, you don't think very well when your blood sugar is going fast. So Target, I bought some things that were good food, we needed it, but then I threw in some junk food. So that's why it's a green and a red on that one. So you can get an idea of how I just used my rating system. It's worked really well. Like everything that I am showing you, it's a lot more time consuming to explain than to actually do. When you're doing something like this, it just takes a few minutes, especially if you do it every day. It's just going to take a minute. So this is what I switched over to my insert over here. And the reason being is because I just wanted everything in one place, and I wanted it, in this insert, and I could see it really clearly where instead of flipping through all the pages. And then, so this right here, this section on my planner, this is going to turn into tasks that I need to do for finances or any notes if I watch something. It's the same kind of thing with the rest of my daily pages, just in case you're wondering what that's going to turn into. I'm still going to use it. So back to my tracking. I think I mentioned I'm only tracking my personal spending. As far as the categories, so for instance, let me talk about, what's a good one on here? Well, Panera, when I was sick. So this is an interesting thing, and this is just going to be a judgment call. But Panera, because I was sick, that could either come out of groceries, it could be personal, it could be if you have like an entertainment budget. It's really just kind of depend on how much you have left in your budget and which category best fits that description, if that makes sense. So this particular one, I had grocery money, so I took it out of there. And because I was sick and needed soup, I put it out of groceries. If like for this one, this other Panera was a part of our gifts and entertainment, so that's why it came out of that one. So again, you're just going to have to kind of think and decide. If you're constantly tweaking things and you're constantly overspending, that's going to be a clue that you need to either control your spending or switch up your budget. Like I said, with your envelopes, you're just going to rearrange things as you get home, and it's all good. So don't stress about it too much. Let me show you my favorites as far as keeping track of things. This is my favorite calculator. This is just a Casio solar powered. I've probably had this for 15 or 20 years. I love this thing. I'm old school. Yes, I've used my phone. Yes, I've used the computer. I know that there are other ways, but this one's just really easy for me to use, and it's kind of nostalgic as well as that I just really love it. For my receipts, I just keep them right in here. This is something from Target. They probably don't have this anymore because, as you know, Target One Spot changes up all the time. So yes, this was $1. And this is a new purchase, a fairly recent purchase this year, because my other one I've had for 12 or 15 years. So it was time to go. This one is a little bit big for me, to be honest, but the reason I do keep it and like it is because you can put regular sized pieces of paper in here. So I keep our statements, like I'll show you, I have a Social Security statement in there. I also have some paperwork. We just had to replace our furnace and air conditioning. Yes, that was really sad, but with the Dave Ramsey system, we had the money in our savings, so that was all good, even though it was really expensive. So those kinds of family things I will keep in here. I don't keep a lot of receipts because, as you can see, most of mine is something I don't really need. And if I need to go back and actually look at something, I have it written down here with my rating system to see whether it was good or bad. So I don't keep a ton of receipts. So here's my Social Security statement that I keep in there. This is folded in half. If it bothers you that it's covering up the tabs, then just fold it into thirds. But as you can see, there's plenty of room with the pieces of paper. And then I also wanted to show you, you saw my bank bag, but I also do keep I switch back and forth between my bank bag and my receipts to keep my cash envelopes in. So the other thing I wanted to show you as far as receipts go is, I think the last time I talked to you, I was going to Target for a gift and some groceries. Now I didn't end up buying that thing for the gift. So I just have my groceries in here. I put my gift one already back in here. And then what I do is just look and see what's coming up for this next time. So I've got right here is my list: light bulbs, printer ink, utility knife refills, and graph paper. So that is going to be, let me look at my categories. That's going to be household for light bulbs, and then office supplies for graph paper, and then my printer ink is going to come out of my checking account as a debit on Amazon because Walmart doesn't carry my printer ink anymore. So then that's what I do, is I just put these categories now in here. So now I'm carrying, for this week, groceries, office supplies, and household. So if that makes sense. So I hope this is all, you're figuring out my little system. It's like I said, it's so much more complicated to explain it than to actually do it. But I hope this is helpful. I think what I'll do for my next budget or my next finance video, I'm either going to do how I do our family budget meeting with my husband, or the journey of the Dave Ramsey 7 steps. But anyway, there's a couple more videos coming. I know this is really, if you're not interested in this, I'm sorry, but I've had so many people ask me how I do my system and how I handle my money since I have been doing this for a long time. So thank you again for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. Bye-bye.